Good afternoon, Wakefield, and welcome to a December 15th, 2021 Town Council meeting. I hereby call this meeting to order. In attendance, we have a quorum. We have Councilors Chines, but Danahy and Dombrowski and myself, so 5 of the 6, right? We have one item on the agenda today, and that is to set a proposed date for a special election to fill the unexpired term of Peter May on the council through April 26, 2022. Do I have a motion to set that special election for February 22nd, 2022 during normal polling hours of 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Galvin Middle School?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Councilor Chines and seconding by Councilor Butt. Discussion. Any discussion? Councilor Dombrowski and then Councilor Chines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just have a little bit of an understanding of what the requirements are, maybe Mr. Mullen, relative to how much time we need to give? I mean, obviously this is a short period of time that we're talking about, filling, so we want to be able to maximize the length of time that someone would be serving. Is the 22nd the absolute earliest that we could do this by law, or are there other considerations we should be giving?
Yeah, Mr. Dombrowski, the problem with looking for the earliest election date is that the law allows us to demand that candidates get back their completed nomination papers as early as 2 days after they are taken out. So if your question is what's the minimum, assuming that the town clerk could arrange tomorrow for nomination papers to be available in blank form for candidates to take out, we could demand that they be returned at the end of the day on December 20, which is 2 business days later. That would advance the schedule generally 2 weeks. But I expect that even as it is, the council may be criticized for demanding too much of candidates in expecting that they are going to get their nomination papers filled out and submitted to the Board of Registrars by the 4th of January, which would be the deadline now, assuming an election date of February 22.
Okay, so it sounds like we have discretion. The suggestion appears to have been that 1/4 as a deadline was the reasonably, most expedient amount of time we could offer to folks. And then from that 1/4 date, do other requirements flow to get us to the 22nd of February, or is there any room after 1/4, where we could tighten up this timeline?
Well, no, after 1/4, which is the deadline for getting completed nomination papers to the Board of Registrars, the next statutory deadline is January 18. That would be the last day to get papers that have been certified by the Board of Registrars to the town clerk. And then January 20 would be the last day to object to any nomination papers or to withdraw them. And February 2nd would be the last day to register to vote in this election.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like there is any opportunity to advance forward short of having a very contracted time to pull papers, which would, I think, by most accounts, be unrealistic to expectations.
Exactly. We have a trade-off before us. We could advance the election a little, but only by making it tremendously harder for candidates to get their nomination papers filled out and filed.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess my bottom line question is, are we doing all that we can to allow a reasonable amount of time for people to pull papers, but also to hold this election as early as we can? And it sounds like from what you're saying, we are.
Yeah,
Is that
especially considering that we're going into the holidays.
right?
You know?
Okay.
And I think, Madam Chair, I might add is that we also are concerned about disrupting the education of the students at the Galvin, where the election will be held. So during that vacation week was one less disruption for populations that's been disrupted so much over the last year and a half. So we kind of were trying to think about that time frame too.
So to be clear, February 22nd is during the winter school vacation.
I do think on that point, though, you know, when we had this presentation of central voting a few years back, it was presented as it was not going to be a disruption to the school and or to the community. And so I think this is a cautionary tale that if this is going to continue to be an issue, because there undoubtedly will have special elections from time to time, and the school shouldn't be disrupted. I agree with that. But if it in any way could compromise our ability to hold elections as we otherwise would, then I think we need to rethink, you know, this central voting. Is there a different location for it, or do we not have central voting? I think that's an important discussion to be had, because when this was approved, it wasn't with the expectation that we would be having to work around the school schedule to any meaningful way. And again, that's not to say that you know, I have complete, you know, respect for the school and their needs, but if our needs aren't aligning with the schools, then perhaps we need to think about another facility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to relitigate this, and I think disruption is probably too strong a word. I mean, they have systems in place. Maureen, did you want to respond directly to that, or?
I just wanted to add, we could also, if it came up in the future, I like the centralized voting, we can look on Saturday elections. So other municipalities have Saturday elections.
That's a good point.
And if it ever became an issue, but I like that it's, we're not taking another day away, that it's a day that they won't be in school. But I don't think we need to relook at finding it was harder to get 4 availabilities before we moved to centralized voting. So that was just my thought on that. But
Okay. So thank you, Councilor Dobrowski. I'm going to go to Councilor Chines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a clarifying question for through you to Mr. Mullen. The last time we discussed this, when Clerk Sheeran was in the meeting, there was a reference to a 73-day requirement, and I just wanted to clarify sort of where that came from. I don't know, maybe if we misheard that or misinterpreted it, or if that's applicable in a non-special election. But can you speak to that and how that fits in with the calendar that we're looking at here?
So I haven't actually added up the statutory periods, but I can tell you that the date that you file the certified Board of Registrars papers with the town clerk has to be 35 days before the election.
Okay.
Okay, and then you work back from that. 14 days before that deadline is the deadline to file the papers with the Board of Registrars. And again, for our purposes, that's January 4th. And the only previous dates are, when does the town clerk make the blank nomination papers available, which for our purposes will be as soon as possible, meaning tomorrow. And then what is the last date when the town clerk will issue blank nomination papers? This is supposed to be, by my count, December 31. I understand from Betsy that because her office is going to be closed that day, she's going to push it until sometime shortly after that in the next week,
Okay.
January, I think, 3rd.
Okay, so if I'm sort of doing my math correctly, based on those 2 statutory requirements, the 35 days plus the 14, 73 would be an additional 24 days, presumably, which would have been the period of time that we would have looked to have kept nomination papers available. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the clarification.
Welcome, Councilor Santos. Any additional discussion? And we have a motion to set the date for February 22nd from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. normal polling hours at the Galvin Middle School.
Thank you
Any
so much.
additional?
Had a little work crisis that I came
No
late.
worries. It's hard in the middle of the day. Any additional discussion? Councilor Dobrowski.
I just think the other comment I want to make is, I know, Mr. Mayo, I have spoken with you. You did look at, you know, the opportunity to consolidate this with the other election that we're having, and it wasn't practicable to do that,
Right.
and that's why that's not happening.
Correct. The other election is for a limited hours.
Right.
And I think it would be totally confusing and really a disservice to the public to come in and say, hey, I thought I could come at 7 and vote for both, and yet the vocational school would have been closed up. So I think it just would have been too disruptive and confusing to people. And this gave a little bit more time for people to get signatures and what have you.
Thank you.
Counselor Shines?
Just a question on that as well. So my understanding for the vocational election is that we don't actually set that date. That's a district-wide date. Is that correct?
That is set by the vocational school committee for every community in the district.
Okay, so the only way that this would have lined up, I mean, effectively, is if, you know, that date had been set at a later point in time. I'm just given the timeline that Mr. Mullen laid out. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any additional comments, clarifications? No, seeing none, we can do a roll call vote. I'm just going to go in the order of my screen. Counselor Shines,
Yes.
Counselor Butt,
Yes.
Counselor Danahy. You're muted. I think I saw your lips move, but that probably doesn't count.
Yes.
Counselor Dombrowski.
Aye.
And Counselor Santos.
Aye.
And myself, aye. So looks like we have a special election on February 22nd. For just for the public, any other questions can be referred to the town clerk, and she will issue a list of all of the dates and procedures that are needed. Okay, so I will take a motion to adjourn until our next meeting on Monday, January 10th, 2022 at 7 p.m. and wishing everybody a great holiday.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Santos, seconded by Counselor Chines. Roll call vote. Counselor Chines.
Yes.
Counselor Butt.
Yes.
Counselor Danahy.
Yes.
Counselor Dombrowski.
Aye.
Counselor Mullen. I'm sorry, Counselor Mullen. Oh, you want to be a counselor?
That'd be
Counselor
awesome.
Santos.
Aye.
Just
think
going
you'd be a
across
great
my
counselor.
screen. Counselor Santos.
Aye. Yes.
And myself, aye. All right. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone.
Have a great holiday. Be safe.